Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Outgrow's Market of the Month. I'm your host, Dr. Saksham Sharda. I'm the creative director at outgrow.co. And for this month, we are going to interview Sujan Patel, who is the co-founder at Mailshake and Ramp Ventures. Thanks for joining us, Sujan.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here and I'm honored.
So, Sujan, we are going to start with a rapid fire round just to break the ice. You get 3 passes. In case you don't want to answer the question, you can just say pass. But try to keep your answers to 1 word or 1 sentence only, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, so the first one. How long does it take you to get ready in the mornings?
60 seconds.
Most embarrassing moment of your life?
Speaking at a conference, and right before I go up to speak, I spill coffee on my shirt.
How many hours of sleep can you survive on?
6.
Fill in the blank. An upcoming marketing trend is blank.
An upcoming market, so on AI is
Okay,
is
that works.
overhyped. I guess overhyped.
All right, so fake marketing. Okay. The city in which the best kiss of your life happened.
Irvine, which is where I'm at my wife.
Pick one, Mark Zuckerberg or Jack Dorsey.
Mark Zuckerberg.
The first movie that comes to your mind when I say the word ambition.
Batman.
When did you last cry and why?
Pass. I don't know.
The biggest mistake of your career.
Not doubling down on Mailshake earlier.
How do you relax?
I race cars.
How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
1.
A habit of yours that you hate.
I care too much.
The most valuable skill you've learned in life.
Building relationships.
And the last question is your favorite Netflix show.
Pass. I think they all suck.
Okay, all right. So, well, that's the end of the rapid fire round. You scored 8 on 10 because you passed 2 times and you just get to win a car. You win a car. Just kidding, you don't. Can't afford that. But yeah. All right. So let's go into the bigger questions and we're going to pick some from the rapid fire questions. So at what point did you realize that you needed to double down on Mailshake, that you need to do what you needed to do at Mailshake? Milkshake.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, we get that all the time. We're leaning in too. So I think it was probably when we hit about $1 million ARR early in our business. I was like, wow, it took us a long time to get here. And by the time we hit $1 million ARR, some of our competitors were raising money at hundreds of millions of dollars valuation. So we realized that at $1 million ARR, the market is big and it's expanding. And there's one thing I realized is in building businesses for the last about 15 years or so, is that there's things you can control and then there's things you cannot. When things you cannot control are going in your favor, that's a great sign to double down or lean in or that, go with it. And so things I can control, how Mailshake does, what we build, what features we build, what we do for marketing. Things I cannot control, the market I'm in, especially post-product market fit and whatnot. So as the sales engagement space is expanding and money's flowing in, people are buying, changing habits all day long, from moving to like living inside their CRM to living inside their sales engagement platform. It was all of these signs. The tea leaves were there, early on at about $1 million ARR. And I wish I doubled down when we're at 10K MRR or like 5K or right when we got product market fit. And double down for me is, hiring more people, investing in marketing and product faster.
And how does one, because obviously you started doing that after you hit that point of 10 million. But how does one recognize early on? So what lessons did you learn? How do you recognize early on that this is what you need to be doing and you need to be doubling down on? Like, what are some of the signs?
Yeah, so I think it's so I think I don't want to get into the how, right? I think it's identifying traits of a growing market, an opportunity you should be doubling down on is you're getting traction. Looking at, monitoring competitors, monitoring key, maybe even just like I'm an SEO by trade. That's kind of what I start off as a marketer. And so just monitoring your main keywords in the space and see if the search volume, how well the search volume is growing. Looking at all the competitors in the space to see how big their brands are growing. Looking at where, VCs are spending their dollars is a good indicator, and really where you're getting compared to. Now, all of this being said, you could still be very wrong. So these are not like it's almost like you can only confirm whether you're right or wrong after the fact in these things. But if you're looking for leading indicators, those are some really good measurable ones. And if I look back and we look, startups are always looking for that hockey stick growth. Well, if you look back at the space in 2016, 2017, 2018 is when that hockey stick growth started happening for all the companies in our space, in terms of branded searches, in terms of people looking for sales engagement.
Oh, okay. So is that the time Mailshake also gained traction, the 2017-18? What time did you see the traction in Mailshake?
Probably around, I think 2016, I'd say. So like 1 year and a half after starting, late 2016 or 2017, is when we started gaining traction. But I didn't realize that we should be doubling down probably until 2018. So I was kind of late year and a half to kind of to invest earlier. And by that time, we'd lost kind of early mover advantage.
And what do you think?
Game of catch up.
I see. And what do you think sets Mailshake apart from the other sales engagement platforms? Because you said you were monitoring the market in general, and that's what gave you eventually the idea that you guys were doing really well. So what do you think is in Mailshake that sets it apart?
I'd say it's our simplicity, ease of use. We don't have all the features, and we are focusing 100% on that end user. The salesperson, the marketer, the person driving the campaign. And I think a lot of our competitors are focusing on having everything, all the checklists crossed off of the request of the customer. And what I try to do is measure twice, kind of build once. And so we look for this is what people say they want to do. What are they actually trying to accomplish, and what will help them do those things? And the reason I say that is that what people say they want to do and what they attempt to do often is very different than what works. And this is what works, and this is what they should be doing. And what they want to do often gets in their own way of being successful. And I noticed that firsthand just at the start of Mailshake, we didn't have all the features. We focused on time to value being minutes, not weeks and months. So if you think about the age-old like Salesforce, how long does it take to deploy Salesforce? It's measured in weeks and months. Compared to Mailshake, you should be able to do it within your first session.
Fair. And could you give us like an example of a story of what people wanted to do versus what they should be doing? Like, could you give us an example of a client that you had that you made you realize this, etc.?
Yeah, so I think we get this all the time. So our customers are sales teams typically. Or like a sales agency where they have clients where they do meeting setting and booking for, and they're like, I want my information to be syncing to my CRM. I want the leads to be imported here. I want when conversations are done. There's this laundry list of like, I want all these tools to communicate perfectly together. And I also want Mailshake to do, I want to take notes in there. I want to update the deal status. I want to be pinging people on LinkedIn. I want to prioritize this way and sort that other way. And I want this report. I want that report. And I want to know how much revenue I'm attributing to. So how much revenue my outbound sales through Mailshake is driving, how much revenue it is. Well, first of all, there are big technological challenges here, which, not to say they're not important, they're very important, but getting tools to work together is very complex. And it doesn't seem that way from an end user perspective, but they are in the back end, because if you think about a CRM and Mailshake integrating together, sounds easy, yeah. Whenever you update Mailshake, you should update your CRM. But what happens if your CRM should be updated? But what happens if you have both windows open and you have a note on both sides? Which should supersede the other, right? What happens if XYZ tool doesn't have an API that allows you to connect that way? What happens if XYZ edge case, right? So there's all these edge cases, all this information, like, and now think about this. So let's just say it's all possible. The user interface to be able to set up the right configuration to connect these tools is so complex, you'll never figure it out without a salesperson or support person, and therefore you will never start your Mailshake campaign. So if you get stuck at the configuration screen, that is our fault. Whatever I can do to minimize configuration BS and just get you started to actually make some sales. Because guess what? When you start making money, it's very easy to figure out how much money you made. When you don't make any money, it's very hard to have a roof over your head, to have a job, to be in business. And so it's easier to count your revenue and deal with reporting and all the nuances of getting all the tools to work together manually or whatever. That's easier problem to solve than it is to get success in your sales efforts, right? And so we said, like, let's just make people get started. We'll get them out of their own way and to minimize the complications that they think about in their head, friction points. Now, we're not perfect, and we're still trying to get all these pieces to work together, but still trying to do it without an annoying, crazy configurator, which requires 5 meetings and your IT person.
Fair. So it's kind of a no-code tool, is what you're trying to say. That is, but how many times has your team have to step in when people do want to do something like really complex at the first go? Is it a common occurrence, or have you optimized the process that they just themselves understand that they need to do something simple first?
Well, I think we design for not having to be involved, and not that we don't want to be involved and we don't want to help, but we design it so that the software is intuitive enough to where we don't need to be involved, or that when you need help, it's like readily available. So think about this as like an area that might be more complex, adding a little note that says, hey, read this if you're connecting to Salesforce, or like, check this guide out if you're doing this. And the reason for this is not that I don't want to be involved. I mean, it's cheap to hire support people and salespeople to support the demand that we have. To fulfill the growth, it's easy. It's easy. Again, it's spending money and hiring the right people. But think about this from the other end. I'm using something and I have a problem right now, and I don't want to wait 10 seconds, 5 minutes, 5 hours, 1 day to hear back the back and forth communication from any person, right? Because it's not like a person's going to be readily available in any time zone, anytime someone's using it. So it's more time to value and those like minimize frustration. So now, again, we're not perfect. There's all sorts of times where humans need to get involved, sales and support and success. But anytime we start to see these things happen over and over again, we're like, oh, this is a part of our product that we need to improve, or we need to address this situation. How do we do it? Do we address it before someone even gets to this screen? Is this screen important for them to go through to succeed in what they're trying to achieve? And so these are all these different criteria. Now, we know that, for example, if you connect Mailshake to a CRM, you're probably going to need help. So if you connect a CRM, we encourage you through in-app as well as through onboarding emails to sign up for our webinars, our live trainings. And our live trainings are like where our support person is kind of tackling one-to-many help. And so based off what you do in the product, you will get nudged to kind of get help because we know you're going to need it, and it's frustrating when it doesn't work. So let's just get ahead of it, right? And just offer it. So anyways, again, we're not perfect, but all these little nuances that I don't think a lot of our competitors think about, or even if they think about it, this is just in our DNA. This is where we strive. And I think that has led to a lot of word of mouth, and just kind of happy customers, and frankly, more successful outputs, because people should be able to, and do, based off the feedback we get all the time through NPS and reviews, sit down in one session and deploy an outbound sales campaign.
So where do you think the market for no-code tools is headed in that case? Do you think we are aiming towards a future that is going to be everything you do, everything by yourself, and you shouldn't at all need the support team? Or do you think it's always going to be a hybrid market, that you at some point, for some complicated things, you need a CRM, you need the assistant?
So I actually look at this as not like a no-code trend. I actually look at this as empowering individual contributors to do things that previously required, your CFO to sign off on something, right? An IT department. I look at this as DoorDash, when before you were going and calling the restaurant and ordering, or your options were pizza, So this is allowing like the on-demand economy for B2B, sales reps. And I think sales reps and marketers, but usually sales reps have been underpowered for a long time because they required like their VP of sales, the IT department, like so many like BS kind of red tape. And now it's like, just go.
Oh, sorry. You were talking about the hockey stick type of growth earlier. What do you think has led to this shift towards growth hacking from traditional marketing? What do you think, at what point did this shift happen and why?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been this slow kind of change that has happened over the last decade. And then probably around 2013, 2014, people put a name on it called growth hacking, which is not just focusing, in my opinion, not just focusing on driving traffic and awareness, but like putting marketers, giving them a team as well as holding them accountable to full revenue attribution, and really to do successful marketing. If you look at Mailshake's marketing efforts, the product team is working on marketing, the sales team is working on marketing, the support team is working on marketing, the design team is working on marketing, the dev team is working, like everybody's working on marketing initiatives. It's growth, right? And so I think the reality is that we just calling it what actually is required. And when in the past, in the first 10, 15 years of adoption of the internet and cloud, it was, oh, great, like just do ads and spend money on content and you will show up and then people will choose and you'll have a meeting. And now it's like, I want all that, but I want it done today, right? So I can go, for my company, I can go sign up for payroll today. I can go to Gusto or any payroll software and book a meeting with the sales rep today. Not even book a meeting, I can do it through live chat and get going and connect my bank and probably hit payroll, start sending my first payroll tomorrow, right? That's within 24 hours rollout of payroll. 10 years ago, technology between just the banks and the service, where they need to connect their banks wasn't possible. And so you weren't able to do it. Now Plaid exists and you can go connect the bank account within like 30 seconds. So I think the technology as well as the adoption has driven consumers to want to get stuff, customers to want to get stuff done faster, and therefore marketers have to like step it up to be like, okay, well, how do I do that?
And in what way, since you mentioned in this answer that every single department was doing marketing, in what way is every single department in your company trying to do marketing?
Yeah, so I'll put it simple. Anyone that talks to customers, support, sales, onboarding specialists, those are kind of the three people who would talk to customers. Their job is to make sure the customers have a positive experience and help them. And sometimes that's saying no and being, it's not always the affirmative, like, yes, great, let's hug it out, right? Sometimes like, no, we don't do that. That's not how it works. And you shouldn't use our product this way. Sometimes it is saying no. So it's the experience on that front. And also identifying bad experiences so that we can fix it for the future customers, for the next wave or the next time around. Development, product, their job is to build new features, functionality, capabilities to expand, to make our customers more successful, or things that are causing issues that have been either identified by our customers themselves or sales support team. Marketers are to make sure that we are creating content, educating. Really, it's a lot of the education, and that all that stuff is out there in front of our potential customers. So everyone's doing marketing, whether they know it or not, in my opinion.
So what's one advice you'd like to give someone who wishes to start a business in the SaaS space?
I think in today's age is get started yesterday. just go. So pick a business, pick a category, and get going. And I guarantee you, your first business is not going to be super successful. I would love for people to prove me wrong there, but and if you do, great. I would love for your first business to be super successful, but just get started and learn everything you can for the second one to be very successful. And you could measure, and again, I'm a doer, and I think people will learn best by doing, because you could try to figure out all the different best ways to do this, the best industry, blah, blah, blah. No code trend is going up. Great. By the time your no code startup gets traction, it will not be the same tailwinds as it has now. It just won't. That by the time you launch if you're building in the sales tech space, by the time you launch your startup, it'll be too late to get that tailwind that we got. We were too late to get the tailwind. Some of our competitors got 2-3 years before us, and it is what it is. So I think there's no better time to start a company than today, or yesterday, actually. Choose any idea and go. Mailshake was when I started Mailshake, it was my side hustle. It was my wife was getting her MBA, and I'm like, I should do my own MBA, but I learned by doing. So I'm just gonna build whatever my biggest pain point is, and Mailshake was not even what it was today. The problem we started to solve was for marketing people, for content marketers to do outreach, and what we ended up doing was, turns out when you're a salesperson and you do outreach, it makes a lot more money for you, and therefore the market's bigger, therefore you're willing to pay more, and there's a bigger business there. So that's what we ended up.
So do you think founders today have all sorts of pressures, like building in public and having a personal brand? They can't simply let their product do the talking. Do you feel that pressure when you started out?
I think those are not pressure, those are opportunities. You can have a shitty product or no product and still build up hype. That's what a personal brand is, right? I think it's an opportunity to have a voice before you have a product. So I think that's an advantage, not a disadvantage. I think but with that advantage comes noise. So I think there's a lot more noise these days than there has ever been, but it's easier than ever to kind of launch a product, which unfortunately adds to the noise.
But you talked several times in this interview about how one needs to keep in touch with what the tailwinds are, etc., or keep in touch with the market. How do you keep in touch with the market? Where do you get your news from? Where do you get your tech news from? How do you keep in touch with what your competitors are doing? But not just your competitors, but the general zeitgeist of the market. How do you figure that out?
Well, so one of the things is I look at everyone. I don't look at the game, like the space that we're in, and just any market as a zero-sum game. Like there cannot only be one winner, because my competitors in my product, in my category, are not competing with me in my business. Meaning, like, so there's Outreach and Sales Loft, which is kind of the two biggest players in the sales engagement space. They're well funded. We're bootstrapped. For me, building $100 million business is a huge win. For them, that's a massive failure. So, and also they're already doing $100 million in revenue. So we're not. So to me, again, if I can, they need, in order for them to succeed, quote unquote, based off what they signed up for, is to hit billions. For me, success is 100 million. And so $100 million is like generational wealth for my family and anyone, I guess, generations to precede me. So how do we keep up? I am actively talking to my competition. I'm very good friends actually with some of my competition's VP of marketing. I like I said earlier on, relationships is a huge key, and that's kind of how I got a lot of news information. So just keeping in touch with practitioners, aka my customers, as well as people in the industry. So we're in sales engagement. That's a subcategory of sales tech. So in the sales technology space, there's like thousands of companies. So I'm just literally just talking to other founders, talking to people that are in the space, other directors, managers, marketers, what have you. So yeah, just keeping a pulse on things. And I wish I could tell you, like, oh, do these 1, 2, 3 things and you're good to go. No, just try to keep a pulse. Connect with people in the space. Don't try to make it like, what can I get out of it? Just try to make it a symbiotic relationship. And maybe I've seen situations where we bought a competitor out, not Mailshake, at one of our other companies at Voila Norbert. And that wouldn't have happened if we didn't have that relationship 3 years before, or kept in touch.
Sure. And where do you go ahead. I was going to say, where do you think the future of bootstrapping versus venture capital is headed? Because as you're saying, with venture capital, they're just expecting, there are all these unprofitable companies that they expect to turn out profit someday, but they're never really, like, they're expecting them to be in billions to be able to, come back to that venture fund that was raised. So what do you think? What is the future of that?
I don't know. I don't know enough about the venture side. I kind of stick to what I know. and what I very, very vulnerable when it comes to, like, I don't know what I don't know. And so the venture space is something that, like, it's not something that I've dabbled enough in. And so I just can't comment on the venture side. On the bootstrap side, I think you're going to see a lot more bootstrap companies. I think there's a lot more bootstrap companies out there that exist that people don't know about. It's that Fortune 5,000, the Fortune 5 million that you don't see. You hear about these funded companies because they're doing PR, they're in the news, they get funding, what have you. You don't hear about, like, a Mailshake in the news. I don't think we've ever been mentioned in the news. We're just quietly making money, hiring, growing, building a business, and making money. That's it.
Well, where should one hear about them? I get your logic that one doesn't hear about them in, TechCrunch or all these newsletters, etc., etc. Yeah. But where can one hear about these companies? Like, if there's a budding entrepreneur who wants to learn about the companies like yours that are actually making this profit that actually counts, where can they learn about them?
Yeah, so I think Indie Hackers is a great source. MicroAcquire is launching a new blog kind of media source on bootstrap companies specifically, which is, so keep a lookout for that. MicroConf is another conference for bootstrap SaaS founders. but I don't know that you have to be like, so a lot of people that are in the bootstrap SaaS founder space, they think like, oh, I'm building this bootstrap company. Raising money is bad. No, raising money is just a different path to success or failure. And there's private equity. There's hundreds of paths forward. I don't like to be in one camp or the other camp. I think pay attention to all of it. So look at TechCrunch, look at the market, look at the indie hackers. And I think it's finding your tribe. Hang out with people and in areas where you find like-minded, folks. I find just as many lessons from reading about VC companies and VC-backed companies as I do bootstrap companies. In fact, more, because with VC-backed companies, you just fail faster, and there's no better lesson than failing. The best lesson is someone else failing and you getting the lesson from it. It's the cheapest way to fail, the fastest way to fail. But I think that I wouldn't say like, oh, you have to be, if you're a bootstrapping company, you have to join MicroConf and Indie Hacker and follow all the things. Because I guarantee you, the stuff you read from, I think there's folks like DHS, Jason Fried, half their shit in 10 years will be proven wrong. Google, if you followed the way Google built a workplace over the last decade, is wrong. You just don't hear about the wrong part until way later. So I would say follow your, create your own path forward. And I would not take I look at all the stuff you read, even this interview, as inspiration, and you take inspiration to take action and I have a problem. I'm looking to do marketing on this, that, the other. Use whatever you can for inspiration, but don't look at this as the truth. Look at it as information, help guide you to your truth.
All right, fair. Take the best of everything. All right, so the last question for you is, what would you be doing if not this? If not Mailshake?
Another SaaS company.
It would be another SaaS company. So this was your future. Okay, so no big ideas yet that you've thought of?
I've got, so we're working on some stuff. I'm just not going to share any of this stuff. We're working on something in the AI space.
Fair.
So that's kind of where our next kind of bet is. And then HR tech is, my business, Ramp Ventures, we're laggards. We buy and operate businesses that are necessity and opportunities for growth. So we're in HR tech and sales tech. Those are two spaces that we're in. So we'll continue to invest there. I don't think we'll be the ones that are innovating, but we'll be the ones a lot of times behind the scenes operating a good, healthy, profitable business that solves a real problem.
Fair. All right. Well, that was the last question. Thanks everyone for joining us for this month's episode of Outgrow's Market of the Month. That was Sujan Patel, who is the co-founder at Mailshake. I keep saying Mailshake. Mailshake. Thanks for joining us, Sujan. Check out their website for more details, and we'll see you once again next month with another Market of the Month.
Thank you.